So yeah, just a couple of areas to contemplate on possible next steps is we've got a couple of programs that we run. One of them that I was talking about throughout the webinar today is the non-billable ROI analysis. So this is something, happy to, yeah, my email's here as well. So happy to have a quick meeting with you and talk about that more. But basically what that is we have we work with you. We have a very simple way. It's through gaining access to the DB02 report. And then also we have a document analysis. It's just a report that we send to you through an SAP transport. And what it will do is go through and find all of the document content that's kind of strewn throughout SAP systems. Then we develop a very clear ROI analysis and pricing strategy for you that, again, we try to target that this will pay for itself and you will have a return on investment starting at the 6-month mark. Excuse me. And then the other thing that we offer in the event that it's needed is a proof to purchase. It's just, essentially like a rapid deployment that we can deploy into your environment. We go through a basic configuration and show you, and essentially just prove to you that the capabilities work that that align with your approach. So whether or not it's document attachments, transaction types, print lists, etc., we configure those and make sure that you're satisfied with the technology and with the appliance prior to making the investment. So yeah, a couple of things there, and we're flexible here, so we've got a lot of different kind of ways that we can go about these two types of programs here, and we're always looking for the best way to accommodate you. And I think that's all I had. So I'm not sure. I didn't pay attention. I've been in full screen mode, so I didn't pay attention to the
Yeah.
chat box at all. I don't know if there are any questions, or maybe I've put everyone to sleep by now.
No, we do have a couple questions. And thank you so much for sharing all of this information about our new SAP appliance. We do invite you to hop on our website. It's a very easy navigation to go to the non-billable ROI analysis and 30-day free trial of a prototype connected to your SAP Sandbox environment. But for now, yeah, let's get to those questions. One of the first questions, and actually a couple of people asked this, was you mentioned that this will help improve your SAP performance. Can you go into some more detail about what that means?
Yes. So it's a little bit difficult to explain, but what happens is when you have, let's say, an invoice table in SAP, the out of the box table, I don't remember how many columns it actually has, but I'm gonna speculate and say it has 100 columns, and each one of those columns reserves space inside of the database. So let's say it could be 32 characters, could be, I'm not sure, it could be an open field for comments. And anytime SAP has one of those tables, it has to reserve that space, even though you might not be using it. So out of these 100 columns for one invoice, if your organization is, let's say, using 20 of those columns, you've still got these 80 columns that are not being used, that are holding reserved space in the database. And so basically what you're doing is you're licensing to use this space in HANA, even though you're never going to use it, right? Because you're only using 10 of these columns. So what happens is, and when we archive that full piece of that full invoice, which includes all of these 100 columns out of SAP, we give back the space. So what we do is there's a utility that we run that reorgs the database, and it shrinks it. And what that does is it speeds up a whole bunch of things. It speeds up the indexes because instead of having this reservation of 100 different columns out there, we've taken that whole piece of content out. We've reorganized the database, and it streamlines it and makes it faster. So that's how it does two things. That's how it actually improves the performance, because the database is smaller, the indexes are tighter and more nimble, but it also just shrunk the database very dramatically, which means we've reduced the cost dramatically. And I'm happy to spend more time and show folks if anybody's interested. And again, my email's there, and can jump online and walk them through how that actually works.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And then another question we have here is what's the typical implementation timeline and how much time would a company need to invest over time?
This one's much simpler. So never more than 6 months. And let me explain why. Um, the appliance is already built. And so that part we deploy in your cloud of choice, and there's a configuration that happens with SAP. So that part is pretty straightforward. The other piece is the analysis to determine how are we going to get you to the ROI. So remember, even before you make a purchase decision, we have already analyzed your DBO2 report. We have already found what the top tables are that we want to have some sort of archiving strategy for. So let's say they're FI documents. Well, we know that documents have to be business complete. And so we will perform that analysis ahead of time and say, okay, out of the FI documents, it looks like we can archive about 20% of them. The other 80% are going to need to stay in SAP and because they're not business complete. So we're already going to have a really, really honed in idea of exactly which tables and how much content out of those tables we need to get out in order to hit your ROI in 6 months. So it doesn't mean that the project's over. If you want to continue on and if we want to find more savings or if you have new use cases beyond the 6 months, that's fine. You're totally welcome to use the software. We're happy to help you continue to leverage it into a phase 2, phase 3. But what we want to do is very quickly hit an ROI within 6 months so that the full application implementation, infrastructure, everything has paid for itself. And now what you're doing is from the 6 month mark moving forward, you're using saved funds to fund new implementations of incremental business value. So that way you're basically never having to go get new funding, right? You're basically, this implementation is paid for and you're now finding ways to fund projects by just savings. And in terms of how much work is involved, so again, no technology work, right? We take care of all the infrastructure, the setup for you. There is some interaction with the basis administrator to work with us to handle the initial integration. And then probably one of your, probably the basis administrator or one of your SAP BAs, just to work with us to ensure that we have the right print list, we've provided the right access, and that we've also got the right archiving strategy for those various tables that are in DBO2 that are kind of the highest net worth tables in terms of providing savings. So I know I said that was an easy answer, and then I made it long-winded. But you know, the summary of that is never more than 6 months, very minimal interaction. It's just a matter of kind of getting to the ROI quickly, and then you decide where you want us to take it from there.
Awesome. Good. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again for sharing this. For those of you that are on the webinar, that's all our questions for today. So we really appreciate the time you took out of your day to join us. And we will be sharing a link to the webinar with you in a follow-up email after the webinar. And it will probably be available fairly soon on our website as well. So again, Jeremy, thank you so much for sharing. And thank you to all of our attendees for being here with us today. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Great. Thanks for coming, everyone. Bye-bye.